But yeah, so we have lots of cool folks out here today. So we have Caitlin Bourgeois, who is the CEO of Customer Camp. We have Beverly Teresa, who is the founder of social media of Beverly Teresa. We have Bianca Pilar Garcia Urena, who is a digital creator and local influencer, and she also works for Nimrods and Gems here in Charlottetown. So if you folks were at the last panel, you got to meet the owner of Gems, Julia. So a little connection there. It's Charlottetown, so we're all connected. And then we have Amber Craig, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at 420, which is a cannabis company located in Alberta. She's also a freelance writer, co-founder of the Breaking Free Foundation, and many more other little things that I'm sure we'll get into later on. And then finally, the panel will be moderated by Mishka Jacobs, who is the Communications and Events Coordinator at Venn Innovation, which is Moncton's business incubator. So I'm really excited for all these folks here today. We have lots to talk about. Again, if anyone has anything else to add, send it in through the chat. But I'm going to turn off my video and mic and let you folks take it away.
Thank you. Before we get started, because this is a social media panel, right? Let's take a screenshot so we can use it for social later. If we're going to be here, we might as well use what we have. Am I right? So on 3, 2, 1, smile. Awesome. So I'm so happy to be here. Like Rachel so graciously said, I run communications and marketing at Venn Innovation, New Brunswick's tech and innovation hub. We have some real powerhouses here today. I'm so excited to chat to you ladies. A little bit more about their marketing background. Caitlin is a marketer by trade and a Forex founder by choice. She's been featured as an influential entrepreneur in Forbes, USA Today, CBC, and more. Beverly owns Throwdown Social Media and helps businesses win at social media marketing. And with over 9 years of experience, she's worked with clients like Rogers and United Nations Association in Canada. Amber Craig is well-versed in marketing and media and launched her own firm in 2011. She's now a trailblazer in the cannabis industry as the Chief Marketing Officer at 420 and the editor of 420 Lit magazine. And Bianca Urena has rich experience leveraging social media for nonprofits in the Dominican Republic and content creation for a number of businesses here in Canada, like Nimrod's Pizza, Gems Boutique, and Pride PEI. And not to mention, she is an emerging Instagram influencer. So, like, what a panel. I'm so excited, ladies. To begin, so we're all, we all have our favorite platforms, the ones that we love to use, the ones that we're doing really well, because there's so many out there. So you have to pick your niche. So I would love to pick your brains on the ones that you love the most. So Caitlin, I think you shine on Twitter.
I love Twitter. You know what? And the funny thing is, I was one of those people who I'd say 2 years ago didn't really get Twitter. I was on there because I ran a marketing agency in a past life, and you have to be on all the channels, or so you think. But I didn't really get the power of what Twitter can do as a way to connect you with amazing people, as a way to grow a brand. And so it wasn't until about 2 years ago where I made a shift. Previous to what I'm doing now, I was running a tech company, and we were really focused with that business. We were focused on women who were building online businesses, and our channels that we spent a lot of time on were mostly Facebook, a bit of like LinkedIn, and some Instagram. But Facebook and Facebook groups in particular was like where we were spending a lot of time. And so when I ended up shutting down that business, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, went on Twitter and, it was like, I need to play around here. This is where my audience is now, because I wanted to work with organizations like Venn and like Startup Zone and Volta here in Halifax and deliver kind of training to their audiences. So like the tech people, they're all on Twitter. I got to hang out here. I started spending a little time there, started tweeting a little bit, got lucky, had a tweet go viral. And then I was like, oh, this is a really cool place. Like, I like this. This is awesome. And over the last couple of years, I've really just spent a lot more time there. And at this point, I looked just before this call, I had almost 1 million impressions just in the last 28 days on my tweets. So when you commit to Twitter and you spend time there and you're active and you're engaging, the amount of exposure and visibility for your brand can be massive.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? You have to be committed. Choose the platform, throw like all your energy into it, right? Yep. don't half-ass it and just dabble. You got to be in it to win it, right?
Absolutely. And I always like to tell business owners, especially if you're doing it for the first time, you're new to marketing, like you do not have to be on all the channels. Do not let anyone tell you that, right? Focus on the ones that really are where your audience is and that you also like creating content for. So, you know, I'm not somebody who wants to take photos all the time of myself and like as a personal brand, like that's kind of what you do on Instagram if you're trying to build up your personal brand. And that's not really my bag. Like I'd much rather hang out on Twitter, like talk to people. Like I've made all these cool internet friends now, and huge opportunities have come from being on Twitter. You know, that's how I got featured in US Today. Somebody found me there. Like I've gotten lots of opportunities to be on podcasts. You guys probably reached out to me for this because of my Twitter presence. So for me, it's been big.
Yeah, awesome. Beverly, your niche, your specialty is really organic marketing. Right. And, you know, as things evolve and it's becoming more pay to play and businesses are struggling with their organic reach, like what are the changes you've seen and how are you navigating that?
I love infiltrating Facebook groups. Ooh. And having plants that go there and who don't work for the business but are somewhat associated with it. I think Facebook groups, like not a lot of people are using Facebook for like scrolling through their feed, but people are still on Facebook. They're still using it. And mostly like I see a lot of activity in groups because that's where you can find people in your niche or your target audience. And I've found a lot of success just having like plants around in different Facebook groups. And I think it's a way to be authentic, which is like, you're not really that authentic if you're a Facebook group plant, but it's a way of like boosting up those social referrals and just kind of like hearing from someone else that something is great and thinking that that person has nothing to do with the company.
Yeah, and I think it's also could be a very interesting strategy for your business, right? If you are supporting multiple clients, multiple audiences, you know, like at a innovation hub, you know, we're not just dealing with the founders, we're dealing with the head of sales, we're dealing head of marketing, head of business development, operations, management. So segmenting into groups could also be very valuable. So you have groups that are dedicated to marketing and you really provide that value to those groups of people within your client base too.
Yeah, and it's really, again, about providing value. So giving recommendations, answering questions, giving out education pieces, linking to outside blogs and things like that. So there's definitely finesse that needs to be had there. And as well as I really like just like building that community. And once you can build a solid community, the engagement and things like that just come because they know that you actually care about them taking their time to leave their likes or their comments and that type of thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned community because we're going to bring that up because that is so important with social media, right? But Bianca, so I mean, Instagram is your jam.
It is. Okay, I love Instagram. I had to say I love Instagram. It's just I find like Instagram is so visual and you can it's a really good platform to engage with your followers or your target market in different way. You can create content in you can do a lot of different posts for Instagram story, for the feed. And now we have Reels in Instagram. It's like a TikTok in Instagram. So yeah, and I love it. And I find I always post every day in my own profile in Instagram story. I post every day. I post about what is happening today in town. Or if I'm going to a coffee shop, I post photo that in this coffee shop. So that motivate other people to visit that local business. So I always try to do that the same with all the businesses that I work. I always try to post every day in Instagram story. What we're doing today, what is the event for today in Imbros, what is the special pizza today? And I love to tag in camera, and I love to put my other coworker to participate to, okay, let's do a video. What is happening today? Do you want to make a video? Like people love that. People see that connection. And So that's what I do. And like on Jen's boutique, we post every day an Instagram story. This is what is happening today. This is the sale today. And we put these clothes, like I was at work this morning, I put this is one of the pieces for James, and I make a video. This is one of the pieces today. Like this is my favorite piece for today. So yeah, I love Instagram. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun in there.
So quick question for you. Are you like nervously tapping your fingers?
No. Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Do you hear that too? Yeah, I don't know what that is. When you speak, it sounds like you're going like...
I think it's her earring on the mic piece on her earbuds.
Ah.
Thank you. Let's just take it off.
Okay.
It's the other one.
Thank you.
I'm so sad to see the groups go though.
It's fine.
Oh yeah, that infinitely improved. Thanks, Bev. Oh, John Kimmel also says he's so sad that we're losing those earrings, right? I mean, the woman has style. Yes, so I also want to know how you see Instagram when it's about a business that doesn't have a visual component. So if it's not like products or things that we can take photos of all the time, how do you suggest that we use Instagram for those businesses? You know, like software as a service, for instance.
I always like, you can share information about testimonial. You can share like, what is your service? What are you doing with your service? You can share that information in Instagram. You can post video how to use that service, or like, yeah, you can like, depend what you're looking for or what you want to share. If you want, you can share about what is happening in the city, and new products, new events. Yeah.
Sorry, just reading a comment. Common theme for all sessions has been community. Yeah, I agree. But we'll definitely get into community soon. I'm excited that people are excited about community. That's great. Amber, Instagram is one of your favorite platforms too, and you also leverage blogging very, very well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on both platforms.
Yeah, I do love Instagram for personal and for business use. Personally, I've worked as a photographer and a designer in past lives, so I like the creative flexibility to sort of find a style and curate sort of your own gallery in essence there. But for business, I just love how quickly organic growth really happens there, and the instant connection that you get. So I do like that platform for both personal and business. And blogging, I can't say enough about blogging. Like, I started out as a writer in high school, so it's been nice to weave in my different personalities and careers into one space. Obviously, there's a great benefit from an SEO perspective when we're talking about creating unique content for your various platforms on your website. So I do love blogging. I try to blog as much as possible. I'm really grateful that I have some amazing writers on my team now, because it's very time consuming, and I don't always have time to write, but I do love blogging, definitely.
Yeah. And how do you see blogging as a channel for storytelling, and how do you approach storytelling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think trying to tell a story in a very limited number of characters can be tough when you're just focusing on social media or Twitter, Instagram, whatever the platform might be. So having the ability to sort of take your time and really explain to the end user the why behind the story, and why do I care about this community? Why do I care about this brand? Why do I care about this cause? You can extend something from 250 characters to 2,500 words. So it gives you a lot of freedom to really get into the nitty gritty of what you're trying to say, and, build up some characters, for example, maybe include some quotes from various people involved in it. It just gives you a lot more opportunity to really dive into the core of what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And Beverly, I'm curious, how do you approach storytelling through your various clients?
So I pretty much figure out what their goals are for social media. I mean, we use different platforms for different purposes. So if we know that they're going to be hiring people in the immediate future, or that's something that they're always doing all the time, then maybe we use Instagram as a community, like a culture showcase where we show the behind the scenes, that type of thing with the company, so that people who want to work at the company go there and then they're like, oh, this company looks really cool on Instagram. And so we basically use the platforms for all different purposes depending on the goals. But sorry, what was the question? I feel like I'm like getting off track.
How do you approach storytelling for
and just figuring out what their purpose is and their mission and their values, and then approaching it that way. And also using testimonials from customers as a piece for storytelling as well. Mm-hmm. And basically showcasing like, this is why we're doing what we're doing, or this is why we're a company, and this is what we want to accomplish as a company. And it's just as easy as just telling a story of one of the clients or telling a testimonial, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Really leveraging your why, or your client's why, right?
Exactly.
And the values that they uphold as a team. I mean, those are the beacons of attractors. You know, if those are your values, you want an audience or client base that has the same values as you. So you need to lean into those.
Right.
Yeah. And at Venn, we found that the human side of storytelling is very important. You know, a business and a brand is phenomenal, but it's always about people to people, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's business to consumer, business to government, business to business, at the end of the day, it's still person to person.
Right. And nobody wants to follow a business on social media. Like, you have to give them a reason why they should actually care about your business.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Kate, like, what are your thoughts on this?
I love this question, and it's something that we're actively kind of like working on right now in my husband's business. So my husband recently started a business. He lost his job due to the pandemic, and he was like, what the heck am I going to do next? And so he decided to start a business called Charboys. And Charboys is kind of like HelloFresh, but we deliver boxes of ready to grill barbecue once a month. And so it's been a ton of fun. And looking at kind of like what's coming next and how we're going to continue to evolve the business and the brand. One thing we're working on is going to be Charboy's Test Kitchen, and it's going to be a YouTube show. And the whole concept is we're going to be testing different products with our audience. We're going to be testing different ways of running the business, potentially different revenue models that we haven't tried before, like subscriptions, or, you know, we've got a line of sauces that people seem to be obsessed with. Should we put those out in market? And like really letting people follow along the whole journey. He's going to be taking a barbecue in a backpack and going to the highest point in Nova Scotia to barbecue up there. It's just crazy stuff. But a lot of my thought, like, I think it was Gary Vee that said, like, you know, document, don't create. And when you think about it as documenting your journey, suddenly you have infinite amounts of content because new things are happening every single day, right? Mm-hmm. And so the way that I look at that kind of like community element and making sure that you're telling the right stories is tell your stories, because they're going to always be original because nobody else has them, right? So
yeah, I love that. And Bianca, do you agree on, you know, documenting, letting your audience invest in the process and the journey so that they feel involved?
100%. Like, I feel like, and this is something that I always try to do in my own profile and all the business, is like the behind the scene, what is happening in the store today, the behind the scene, and me organizing the store, helping to organize the store, like the same with Nimbros, like make videos, like making the pizza, making a cocktail. Like, I think people get really connect because it's a small community. Like, I want to celebrate that. I want to like, look what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Also, I try to do with Instagram story for tell a story. I like to do an animation. Like, I like to do a lot of videos. I have a lot of apps who help me to do like a lot of create content with videos, a lot of animation, because when people go to see the Instagram story, if they see it's really fun, they're gonna keep looking, and then they're gonna visit your profile, and that's what you want. You want they go to your profile. And also now you can link the product in the Instagram story. So you can make a really nice video I can talk about this product, but I can put the link in there. So that if they like the product, they go right away and buy the product. So it's so much fun. It's so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that because, you know, it's very easy to make it a transactional exchange, right? I give you money, you give me pizza. But people are in love with the art of pizza making.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
People love that. People love like yesterday, I was like, let's make a video making this cocktail and put it on Instagram. Like, and put the watermelon, and put the new song from Harry Styles, Watermelon Sugar. And people come that night just asking for that cocktail, like, because they see that and we just having fun. And that's what people want. People want.
Oh, I think we may have. Can you hear us, Bianca? Okay. I'm sure she'll jump back. I'm sure it's just an internet connection issue, which I'm so sad. It was getting so juicy. But we'll keep the juicy conversation going. I love her comment on, you know, how she's leveraging Instagram stories and animations now. And I think that is one of the biggest keys to social media. It's the constant evolution, the constant learning as things change and evolve. It's a very dynamic landscape. So Amber, I'd love to know how you're seeing your social media strategy pivot and evolve with time.
Yeah, I think like just speaking on the 420 side, you know, prior to legalization in Canada, like this is a very stigmatized industry and a stigmatized product. So we had to sort of focus on, ironically, not talking about the fact that we were selling weed. We didn't want to mention it at all. We actually focused all of our social media efforts on the people and the community work that we were doing. And if you went to our Instagram page, you would never know what we were. In fact, a lot of people thought we were a clothing company. And that was really intentional because we wanted people to get behind the brand and the people that work for the brand so that they would be comfortable with what we're selling. Because if we can get you comfortable with the brand, you'll buy anything from us. And that proved to be true. Now, since we're in a couple of years and people clearly aren't afraid of cannabis, we're starting to pivot more and talk about the ways in which people can use cannabis for, you know, different parts of their lifestyle. And now, since COVID hit, we've shifted again to talk about being community partners and providing resources for people. And how are we going to show up again as a community partner and not just a cannabis store? So we've shifted a few times over the last couple of years since our company started, but I think that's just natural in marketing. You always have to be on the balls of your feet and ready to move on to the next thing when something happens.
Yeah, that's like, I have so many questions.
Sorry, I'm back. I don't know what happened.
Oh, no. Oh, good. You just jump in and out. You do you. Kate, I would love to know your thoughts on, you know, really leveraging people and focusing on the community rather than, you know, the products or the services and the brand itself. Like, how do you agree with that you should be focusing on the clients rather than what you're trying to sell?
Absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, you said it, people want to buy from other people, and you see this happening a lot. It's always kind of been that way in certain spaces. So like, you know, for clothing brands, oftentimes the founder was the designer and she was a huge part of the brand, or he was a huge part of the brand. But you see it even happening now in like B2B software as a service companies. You see these like basically like the team behind the company becoming brand ambassadors, and you're not just following Drift or Privy or HubSpot, like you're following their teams. And that evolution is because that's what people want. You know, we don't connect with just a logo. We connect with the people behind the story of where that company is going, where they've come from. And so I think as, you know, for the people that are watching that are trying to figure out where they fit in the landscape and how to tell their story, it's like, again, going back to that, well, you have a story to tell and nobody else can steal it, and it won't ever be boring and it will never be duplicated because it's totally unique to your experience.
Yeah.
And so it's figuring out how to tell your story, but at the same time, recognizing that when people engage with brands, whether it be on social media or they consider buying from you, they're asking a question, and that is, what's in it for me, right? And so it's not just about going out there and talking about yourself. It's about thinking about, well, how am I going to tell this story in a way that invites my audience in? And how can I do it in a way that gets them something that they want, right? Whether that be to be entertained for a minute. It sounds like a lot of Bianca's content is like crazy entertaining, takes you away from the stresses of the day, or whether they're looking to learn something and like upskill in some way, whether they want to convince their boss to do something and they need to have a tweet to point to where somebody said it's a good idea. So, you know, think about telling your story, but at the same time, pull back for a second and go like, okay, but why should anybody care about this story? Like, yeah. What's in it for them? And when you answer that question and you get the storytelling piece right, that's just magical.
Yeah. And I think a piece that it's often overlooked is like the inspiration behind the business. Like get them to fall in love with why you're in love with the business. Yeah. You know, how did you come up with that idea? Where were you? Were you like, you know, swimming laps in a swimming pool, or playing golf with a friend, or, you know, doing another crappy task from your ex-boss? Like, what was that inspiration moment that you were like, yes, I need to start this business for me and for everyone else like me?
Yeah. And the other thing that I think that people are afraid to do, and it's, you know, I understand the fear because it's intimidating and you're kind of being vulnerable, but a lot of people share all their wins on social media, or they'll talk about the things that went wrong, but they'll talk about them years later when they've overcome them. And it's like, back then things were really hard, but like, look at us now. And like, one thing that I think is really interesting and to me gets me really connected to a business a lot faster is when they don't just show the glossy, perfect stuff, right? When they show the hard stuff and the questions that they're grappling with and the mistakes that they made that they learned from. And that can be super compelling to people. You know, at the end of the day, your story is like a mini reality show, because we all know ain't nothing perfect behind the scenes, right? Lots and lots of stuff is not going as planned. And that really gets people to buy in. So for instance, when my husband was thinking about starting his business, like a week later, he got offered this amazing job opportunity after he kind of committed to doing this. And it would have been a crazy amount of money. And he was like, what the heck am I going to do? And I said, you know what? I think you should share this story with your audience. I think you should do a live right now and go on and say, I decided I was going to do this business and now this has happened and I'm not going to do this, but holy crap, I hope this business works out. And people loved that video and he got a ton of support and people being like, you do it, we got you. And so I think don't just share the wins, share the stuff along the journey and invite your people in.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. And I think, Amber, you know, coming from an industry that had such a taboo and, you know, kind of still does, like, it's not there just yet, right? Like, how do you approach that industry adversity, that industry challenge?
Yeah, we've done a couple things. Like, we've focused a lot of time and energy and money really on doing charity work and showing up as neighbors, really. Like, I like to say, when we open up a store, we want to be your neighbor. We don't want to open a business there. Like, I consider it no different than if I was going to move to a new city where I didn't know anybody. I would want to go meet the people that live in my community. I would want to go knock on the doors and feel welcome. That's exactly how we approach our store. So when we go into a new neighborhood, we take the managers and a bunch of their staff and we go door to door to every single business around us, introduce ourselves. Do you have any questions? Do you have any concerns? You know, let's just lay it out on the table. And if anything ever happens, here's my direct number. You can come and reach me. Here's a gift card so you can shop in our store whenever you like. And if there's anything that you need support on, if you're hosting a fundraiser or an event, please call us. And that's really worked out for us, because even the people that don't use cannabis themselves, they're very open to recommending us to their consumers and their customer base as well. And we've also done like a lot of feature blogs on businesses that surround our stores. But, you know, like when I was talking earlier about us not showing any cannabis on our social media feeds, like one of our most successful campaigns was something called It's 420 Somewhere, where we'd use the hashtag and we would give out stickers of our logo or hats or t-shirts, whatever it is. And we would encourage our staff and our customers to take pictures anywhere they were. We've had that brand photographed in Egypt, all over Asia, all over North America, in Costa Rica, like you name it, it's been all over the globe. And if you go on Instagram and check the hashtag, it's 420 Somewhere with FOUR20, you'll see hundreds of photos. And it's been really cool to kind of see that journey. And that's just content that we didn't pay for. And like now we have these brand ambassadors literally all over the world. We don't even operate outside of Alberta, but it's still cool that our brand's been able to extend cross borders.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And, you know, speaking about the importance of brand ambassadors and building that community, I know this is a topic that's very important to you, Bianca. Do you want to add in?
Yes. I found it's really important to use our platform to have conversation about everything's happening around the world, about climate change, about gender equality, about racial and all the kind of injustices happening. I think it's important not just in my own profile, but also I want to involve my business in that conversation. So what I do is for Women's Day, that week in Jane's Boutique, we try to talk about a lot of information. We share information about data, study about what is happening right now, what thing happened before, what the thing that we still struggle. And we talk about those women in the fashion industry. And we do like a lot of quizzes in Instagram story, like fun quizzes, but also you are try to put you educate your customers, you know, your followers. So it's the same when I work for a nonprofit in Dominican Republic. So that nonprofit, they try to protect consumers' right because the situation there is so different than here. So for Waters Day, we always talk about the problem the Waters Day in Dominican Republic, how we educate about reduce water, how to save water, like don't use like plastic bags because in Dominican Republic we are still selling plastic bag and I always talk about this in the nonprofit. We always post about all this kind of content, like look what is happening right now. Look how is all the ocean is full of plastic. So we always try to keep all that information. And for Black Lives Matters too, like the amount of information I post in my own profile, but not just in my own, on all the business in this community was really immense. Like all the businesses that I work, they post information about it. And that made me feel really good and make feel the community good. That business a safe place for them to go. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really important. You want to build a community, you need to know what is happening around the world, what is happening in your community. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important too. And, you know, building that community and those brand ambassadors also becomes particularly important during those PR crises, right? Even when they have nothing to do with you. Like it could be like, you know, Venn is a tech and innovation hub and they're hating on cannabis and we're like, oh, we're not in that industry. But suddenly we have to manage this conversation on our social media platforms that have nothing to do with our mandates.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah.
And when the haters hate, they hate hard. Like they don't mess around when they have negative things to say. So how do you manage, you know, those PR moments?
Well, like for me, I always try to learn. I listen what they saying, try to learn, try to educate myself, and I always try to like try to educate myself. I say sorry. We're gonna try to do better, or thank you for letting me know. I'm gonna keep that information. I'm gonna try to do better because like, yeah, and I wanna they know this is what I think about this, like about gender equality. This is how I feel and think. So I always try to share information with them too, like look at this information, we share information, we can have a conversation, we can tag. If something happen and if we post something in any business and it's a negative comment, I always try to see, they feel happy, the customer feel happy. I say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna refund the product. Do you wanna come to the store? I can give you another piece. Or like, you know, but like, it depends. It depends what is the situation, what is happening. But yeah.
Yeah. And Beverly, what are your thoughts on internet trolls and how do you manage them?
I love a good troll. No, I don't. I think it really comes down to for companies to have a plan in place, and that can be part of your marketing plan. Just to begin with, figuring out which employees or which team members are going to be on this crisis communications team, that type of thing. Have an open line of communication. So whether it's like an email thread or it's Slack or a channel in Slack, something along those lines. And then figuring out, not being reactive, just like taking a step back, taking a minute to breathe and figuring out, okay, what's the actual issue at hand, and then if you need to, consulting a PR professional, because I mean, if we're in social media, we deal with people all the time, but there's people who actually deal with these things professionally. So it's always good to consult those professionals. And I feel like just making sure that you publicly say something to that person, or you publicly have a statement, but then you're handling things on the back end. So that's why you'll always see companies saying, "Oh, so sorry to hear that. We'll send you a direct message or direct message us your phone number," or that type of thing. And then they're handling it on the back end. But the important piece is to show that you're actually handling that and you're acknowledging that comment publicly, so that the other people, the other users, the rest of the audience knows that that is actually being handled by you. You're not just ignoring it or hoping that it will go away.
Yeah. Quick show of hands, ladies. Like, do you believe that you should publicly acknowledge the negative comment and get it offline as quick as possible?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so too. And having that public acknowledgement of the issue really, I think, speaks wonders. You know, and I think that tip about having that strategy in place beforehand is so crucial. Amber and Kate, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, you know, I deal with a lot of online trolls for sure. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing is, you know, you do need to respond. I agree with Beverly. Don't react. Whatever you think you want to say in that moment is not what you're going to want to say in 5 minutes or 5 hours. So always take even a few minutes to sort of strategize about what you want to do. And I just find like leading with empathy and compassion, you know, really goes a ways with that person. And 9 times out of 10, they're just having a bad day. And that can be really hard to get to. But I think, you know, working in the charity space has really given me some skills that have lent me really well in the business space. And that's one of them for sure, is just not assuming that that person's out there trying to ruin your business. It's very unlikely that they woke up thinking, I'm going to just ruin this business today. That's my goal. That's not what's happening. There could be anything going on in their day or their life that you just don't know about, and don't take it personal. Just, you know, treat them with kindness and just see what the problem really is. And if you can come to a solution, and if you can't, that's fine, but there's no point in getting to a war of words with somebody. You're not going to win that. Just kill them with kindness and acknowledge that they have a concern.
Yeah, I mean, these are phenomenal tips. Kate, do you want to give like maybe some specifics, like what your actual strategy looks like?
Well, you know what, the truth is I don't have a strategy like documented internally, and I've been somewhat fortunate. And yeah, there's certainly been trolls, but there's also been a lot of positives. What I would add, because I think the ladies covered it so well, what I would add is that for some reason, I think that this is true for all of us. When somebody says something bad, that sticks in our brain and it like beats us down. But when somebody says something good, we're like, oh yeah, cool. And then we just move on quickly. And so I have in Slack a channel I call like customer love or like audience love. And whenever somebody says something nice about Customer Camp or about me specifically, or we have the same one in Charboy's Slack channel, I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll put it in there. And then sometimes when I'm feeling like, oh, like things are taking too long, or we did this really poorly, or like shit, like I will go in and I'll read through all the nice things that people have said, and it's really good for a pick-me-up. So what I would say is like, yes, it's really easy to focus on the negative and let that ruin your day, but there's probably so many good things too. And if you're collecting those stories, it can be an amazing arsenal to have when somebody on your team is feeling down.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to just say out loud that it's okay to take a definitive stance as a business, right? So when someone is, you know, making discriminatory remarks for any reason, if it's on sexuality or religion, these are things I've seen through social media, it's okay to say, this is not what we are about at all. Like, you are allowed to say that, and you're allowed to put, you know, your stake in the ground and say, that is not us, and that is not what we tolerate at all.
I would say like, absolutely. I'd say like, it's not just okay. Like I think it's expected now by like people. And you look at like what Nike has done recently, like they've very much come out, and with some of the decisions that they've made about who they've featured in their commercials and what type of message they've had, they've put a stake in the ground on a number of issues. And they're a big, massive consumer brand. They have all different types of customers. Guaranteed some people are like, I'm not buying another pair of Nikes ever. but the people who matter to Nike are like, I'm never buying anything but Nikes now, right? So I think that putting your stake in the ground can often be polarizing, but it really magnetizes the people who are the right fit to you, and they become even more loyal than if you're just kind of like wishy-washy on important topics.
Yeah. And you can't be everything to everyone. It's impossible. Not everyone's going to like you as a person. Not everyone's going to like you as a brand. So really your values are, again, you know, those beacons of attraction, and you need to really lean into them in everything you do. We have a question related on this that I want to bring up just because we're diving into it. Do you manage negative comments as if they are real, or do you assume some are trolls out of the gate and handle them differently? Anyone who wants to answer that?
You can usually tell when there's a troll comment versus a real comment. Like they'll usually just comment about something that's related to the post, but not specifically to what you're actually talking about in the post. And those ones, like, you can usually tell which ones are okay to ignore or which ones are okay to delete and which ones are actually require you to acknowledge them. I think it's just a matter of using common sense and even just like clicking in to see who's actually doing the commenting.
Yeah. Does anyone else have thoughts on this? They want to share? No? Okay. I'm just checking the time. Okay. So, you know, going on from PR and the negative comments and managing that, there's also a beautiful opportunity to use social media to, you know, further causes, further movements, diversity and inclusion, corporate advocacy. Like there's a really beautiful space that social media can play in. And I know, Bianca, like your social media and, you know, your passions are really along these lines. Your Instagram has a really good mix of local and global issues. You focus on social justice. Do you want to chat about that?
Yes. So because I'm from Dominican Republic, life there is really different than here. So I struggle with a lot of problems, like because the government is corrupt, because we don't have what we need. We had to pay for everything. We don't have social insurance. Like when I moved to Canada and I see here you have a health card. We don't have that in Dominican Republic. You know, like here you have a lot of opportunity, a lot of things that you need because it's a basic human, like it's a basic human rights. We don't have that in Dominican Republic. So when I started doing journalism, that was the reason, because I want to talk about it. So when I moved to Canada, I started to talk about it in my own profile, talk about body positivity. I struggle with that. So, and I know a lot of people, when I talk about it, I know a lot of people text me saying like, oh, thank you for that. I didn't know. So for me, because I'm part of the queer community too, like it was really hard for me being Afro-Caribbean woman, struggle with being myself. So I talk about that. I want to inspire all the people because that helped to build the community. So I always talk about that. I tag for Black Lives Matter. I was talking about that. People asking me, oh, where are you from? Why do you have why you have a curly hair? And I was like, okay, let me tell you something. I'm gonna say a post talking about it. So I talk about this. I'm Afro-Caribbean. This is why I have a curly hair. This is why I have my skin color. I talk about all these things. And I feel proud. And I feel proud now to say that I'm Afro-Caribbean and I'm queer. And I'm part of this community, and I love PI so much, and I feel really accepted. So I always talk about that because, like, can motivate other people. You know, like people are struggling, and it's a hard time, especially now with COVID. People are struggling with this. Like, you don't want to see a lot of negative stuff in social media. We are tired about it. So I always try to change something negative and try to change in something positive. Okay, so let's talk about this. Like, you are doing really, I always talk about PI because here in the community, it's been really hard because COVID. I work for local business, and I know it's been really hard the last few months. So I always talk about this. We are doing great. You are doing great. Like, we open, we can go to Halifax. So feel proud because we're doing great. So I love to do that. I love to motivate other people. Like, in Jen's boutique, when people come to the store, I always say, how are you? How are you doing today? Where are you looking? Where are you from? Let's just talk about it. And people asking me all the time, people asking me about me. They want to know about me, like, because they see me a lot on Instagram, because I always tag in Instagram story for everywhere. So people are always asking me, oh, I see you in Nimros the other day tagging, and now I see you in James. Like, what's going on with you? So people want to know, and I really open. I always tag about everything, body positive, gender equality. In Dominican Republic, we have a lot of cases of a lot of women die all the time. So I always talk about that. Why this is happening, why this still happening in 2020. So I always talk about that. And that can help the business, because if people see that business are supporting those causes, they gonna feel like connect with them. They say, oh, look at that business. Like, they're supporting this cause. We should go and like check that store, or like support them, you know? Like, and I think that's really important when you're talking about building a community. You need to know your community. And that's something that I would say to everybody. You need to know your community. You need to tag with them, look what they're doing. This is the only way you can help. And that you can use all that in social media and keep the conversation, you know, educate other people. So this is something that I always do in my own profile. I always talk about everything, because it's something that I love. And I love, like, I feel really grateful for the opportunity to come to Canada and have my diploma here. I know the city. I know about the people. I tag with them. I go out. I ask to people, how are you? What are you doing? Where are you from? What are you doing? Where you work? Like, people like that. People like the conversation, you know? And that's really important if you want to, like, help to build a community.
I mean, you're giving me literal chills. Like, this is really powerful. Like I can't tell you, it's like waves of chills. And like just wow. Like,
I know, like, and
yeah.
something that I always say to everybody, like, when people for the new entrepreneurs, that, like, if you want to open a new business, if you have a new idea, please go to your community. Look your community. Look what they're doing. Look what they need of your community. When you know what they need of your community, if you know your community, you can do a lot of amazing content for them. You know, you can engage with them. If you know your community, like, something that I always say, the other day someone asked me, like, oh, I don't know what to post this week, and like, I don't know what to post, I don't know what content. And I was like, man, people tag your business all the time. Repost all those photos of your people tag you. They tag you for a reason. They want to feel valued. So post that photo of your customer wearing that product, or like, they want to do that. It's a small community. Celebrate your community. You know, if they tag you, if you go to your business, you go to your coffee shop and they post a photo and tag you, they literally tag you in big. It's for a reason. And you know, post that in your profile. You can send a text, oh, can I use that photo for my feed? You can have a lot of weak content just with your own customer, like, with your own community, you know? That's I always say, use your customer. They tag you for a reason, you know? This is your community, post about them. Yeah.
So we're at 12:34. We have 11 minutes left. I'm just going to remind anyone who's watching us, please feel free to send in those burning questions now. We also have one question for all of us on how Tracy can connect with us on the socials. So ladies, if you want to type into panels and attendees where people can connect with you, maybe let's do that now while we keep the conversation going. So I would also really love to understand how you approach discussing these very important topics. So, you know, some of them make you really angry, some of them make you want to cry. Do you lean into that anger? Do you honor that anger? Or do you approach it from love and compassion every single time and provide things that you can do? Like, this is a really bad thing that's happening in the world. We need to acknowledge it. We need to build awareness. And here are steps that you can take. These are things you can do. These are resources that you can use to educate yourself. What are your strategies, Bianca?
So because I always read all the time, I always try to educate myself, because I need to educate myself first if I wanted to educate others, you know. So I always try to do, I found a lot of research. I always post that research on social media. I always post that research on social media. Look, this information. look those organizations. If you need help, this is the organization. And like it's the same with in Imbros. In Imbros, every week we pick a non-profit organization for the community. We donate money to them, and we talk about them, and it's very important. But something that I really do for social media, if you want to like educate, engage people with everything's happening around the world, I think a really good way is doing quiz in Instagram story. You can do quiz, like a really fun quiz talking about something. You can put like that information. Do you know this for PI week, when I was helping them with the social media? Every morning we pick 3 or 4 questions, and the question was, do you know what is this flag for the LGBTQ? Like, you put the answer, and people, if you can see how many people was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. Like, so that is a really good way to educate people, like your community. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm wondering if you want to answer this, do you have any advice on turning community members into community leaders?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's sort of a cliche answer, but it really is something that we really run our business on, is just getting them to the why. I think it was Beverly that said earlier that nobody wants to follow a business on social media. You got to give them a reason. And that's really true. So whether it's our staff or our customers, we try to inspire them as to why they want to get behind who we are. And then they just take it upon themselves to reiterate that cause. Like, our staff truly are brand ambassadors. That's not part of their job description. They gladly post on Instagram when they're going to work, while they're at work, when they're leaving work. Like, they just love the fact that they get to do what they do. And, working in the charity space and mental health, I think weaving into the conversation you were just having, like leading with empathy and compassion is really how we've been able to elevate our conversation and awareness for what we do, is not taking the tone of anger. There's a lot to be angry about in 2020. Like, it's a pretty awful time in history, but there's always a different perspective, and we try to focus on the perspective of opportunity and learning. And we found that has really given people some respite and like reason to get behind the conversations that we're having. But it all comes back to just getting people behind your why.
Yeah, I love that. Kate, can you quickly talk about the benefits and limitations of having a social calendar and social schedule?
So I would say that the benefit is that it's running when you're not. So it's nice to know kind of like what's coming down the pipe, to be able to put content in there so that, you're off doing your day, you forget to post something, you're having a bad hair day, whatever the fact may be, you've got fresh content. I'd say the shortcomings are that sometimes you're at risk of not being in the moment. Or even posting something that's inappropriate given some event that might have happened in the world. So you have to be kind of aware of like what's in your calendar, and make sure that that if some big world event happens, that you're thoughtful of, is what we are going to post today going to be like appropriate given this or not? And like when COVID-19 happened, I bet you a lot of people just turned off their social calendar. They were like, we need to take this day by day and be thoughtful and responsive to how we exist and how we communicate right now. So I'd say the benefits are, of course, there's that automated element. It allows you to be somewhat consistent with your brand voice, because you're able to create a bunch of content at once. You batch your content. I don't, for my personal social media, I don't use a scheduler for anything. I kind of, as something comes to me, I'll tweet it. I will save, if I get really inspired and have like 8 good ideas at a time, which is always nice and not that common, I'll save them in my drafts so that I have stuff to go to later when I'm hungover and have nothing to say. So what I would say is that, use a scheduler. It is a tool. And like any tool, there are positives and there are negatives, but be thoughtful about in the day being able to be like responding to what's happening in that day. For instance, when we did a little pre-chat before getting on today's panel, Bianca had mentioned how it was raining, and one of the places that she works with sell ice cream, and that she posted something around being able to I can't remember exactly what it was, Bianca, but like you'd said something around the fact that you know, even though it was raining, you could still come in, or like something like
yes. Yeah, I was talking, I remember, I was talking like in Nimbus because it's in the water and it's open if we depend on the weather. So if it starts raining, people are not gonna go to sit down and eat. So what I did that day, because it was raining, I just post something, hey, we do pick up, you know, you can call, like the business still here, we are not closed. Like,
yeah,
I know it's raining, it's really bad, but you can call, we can make your pizza, you can come to pick it up, and you can eat your pizza at home, watching Netflix. So this is a good way, like, because some of the business depend for the weather, depend like for what you were saying about COVID. When COVID happened that week, it was like, okay, why should I post? I don't know what to post. I'm scared to post something that people can be like, why are you posting this? Like for that week and the week, like, I know business need to sell the product because they need, like, we need the money. But like, how you can sell something if you know that people are struggling right now, people lose their job, like, why is, like, that, I think that point, and I feel really proud because a lot of people, I see a lot of business here, they knew how to manage that. It was a really good support. It was like, and you see, and we are still right now, a lot of local people is supporting, like a lot of our community supporting local business, and that's really important. You know, they are still supporting, and that's like, that's good because PI is depending on the tourists, so we don't have that traffic right now, but we are still like having fun. We like, people come to the store to buy, people come and sit down to eat pizza, have a cocktail, you know, like, I know this is happening around the world, but we're doing really great and we need to be proud. I always say we need to be proud.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Atlantic region compared to other parts of Canada and really other parts of the world, we are doing phenomenal. We have 3 minutes left. I'm going to launch one more question. I know there's tons of questions that are flooding. I mean, it keeps coming through and I want to answer all of them. But you can connect with each of us on our various platforms. We've put our information in the chat box, so go find us, connect with us later on. But the last question goes to you, Bev, because I know you're managing multiple clients, and that means you have to juggle a lot of voices. So it's a quick two-part question. How do you manage all of the different brand voices while maintaining your own voice for your own brand? And how do you manage a brand voice on accounts where there's numerous people contributing content?
It all comes down to having a brand voice and tone document, whether it's something formal that's like 10 pages or it's just a sheet of paper that shows how you talk on social media or what your personality is like. So for example, one of my clients, we never say XYZ company, like we don't refer to ourselves as the company. We'll say we, or we'll say our team, that type of thing. Or what's very common is we don't use more than 2 exclamation marks in a sentence, and what kind of slang we do use, what kind of slang we don't use, the type of personality we want to come across as helpful and engaging and caring about our customers. We don't want to come off as too professional or stuffy, that type of thing. So having a brand and tone document is so important, and you can just Google brand and tone document template and you'll find one, and you can just edit that for your own brand. And then just making sure that you are on brand for what you're talking or what you're saying or how you're saying it. But also, I guess, as a social media person, as someone who does social media management, or as one of my services, sometimes it can feel like you have multiple personalities because you are managing different brand accounts. But for myself, I always just make sure that I'm always just myself online. Like, I'll swear, I'll be obnoxious, I'll talk about like other things besides social media. But I actually have an assistant who schedules out tweets and things like that have to do with social media. So the education pieces are already scheduled out. And then for me, it's just me logging in on a day-to-day basis to respond to people, to thank them for sharing it, and also just like tweeting about everyday life. So I just kind of find the balance between being a social media strategist consultant plus just being myself, because I am my own personal brand. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a phenomenal tip. It's also where we have to end off. So Amber, Kate, Bianca, and Beverly, like, I have loved this conversation. I'm connected with all of you. Anyone who's watching, please connect with us. We'd love to chat more. And sadly, without further ado, over to you, Rachel.
Thank you
so much, Mishka, and all the panelists. I wish that this could go on forever. It's such a great conversation, but hopefully we reconnect again in the future with all of you. Thanks again, everyone. If you folks want